Welcome to the Watson Weekly Friday edition. I'm your host, Rick Watson.
Hi, it's Jessica Lesesky. I'm just trying to stay warm, Rick. I said I'm going to bribe a groundhog. I don't know about you. Winter, I'm over it. Let's move on.
I am challenged here. 1 degree is not a temperature.
It is not. It's not. I saw like the Hudson rivers freezing over.
It is.
How's everyone? Just doing a wellness check. Are you surviving?
We are taking a lot of taxis everywhere because no one wants to walk around outside. And you know that's tough for New Yorkers who like to walk everywhere.
That's right. That's almost like blasphemous material, right? Like hailing a cab, calling Ubers. You guys like walk 20,000 steps a day.
Exactly. I mean, that's, it's exciting to think about. We're trying to, again, I am betting on the groundhog. Hopefully no shadow seen.
No, I'm going to throw some carrots his way, whatever it takes. Let's move on with this. But the good news is we do have another show. We have continued with this format of really bringing you the news as only we can do.
Exactly.
With our unique spin, right, Rick?
That's right. This week, we're tracking these major news across the retail and tech landscape. First is American Eagle pulls the plug. After a bold bet on outsourced fulfillment, American Eagle is sunsetting the quiet logistics business. We'll discuss why the platform dream hit a wall and what that says about the state of third-party logistics. Second story is Vinted's American dream. European heavyweight Vinted, who's in the secondhand clothing business, is entering the U.S. market. Can they unseat the many, many established players in the market in the fight for your closet? Third up is Apple's Ambient Ambitions. Apple is introducing a new wearable AI pin to combat all of the noise and effort from OpenAI hiring Johnny Ive and his company I/O in the ambient computing race. Is this a new iPhone moment for Apple, or will it end up like some other failures we've seen? Our final story and main story this week is Shopify's partner, Massacre. Last week, they cut many members of their partner program, and we'll be discussing that. As a reminder, please like and subscribe. We are a YouTube channel. That's what you're supposed to do. So just follow directions. Like, subscribe.
And tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Don't keep this to yourself.
You'll find out when new episodes are uploaded. As a result, we are happy to bring this to you. Story 1, we are going to talk about the quiet end of duration. We've been waiting here on the Watson Weekend for the other shoe to drop on this one in the last couple of years. Quiet during the pandemic really started getting to a lot of other businesses. Logistics was a big one. Finally, it did. American Eagle is closing doors on its quiet logistics business.
Yeah, that's right, Rick. American Eagle is entering this infamous Hall of Fame we like to call Stay in Your Lane. Colgate launching lasagna. What was that about? Cosmopolitan Magazine bringing you a yogurt. Again, don't need that. And Amazon, probably the most infamous, launching the Fire phone in a big flame out. So American Eagle and Quiet Logistics joins this prestigious and infamous group of things don't go so well when you move too far outside of your lane. And it felt like, when American Eagle bought them, the industry was so up on this hype of supply chain. And because Amazon was doing it, every retailer felt like they needed to have more control of their logistics, and they needed their own 3PL to survive. So break this down a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Gap was another retailer that went into this situation. Quiet was never really the budget option. It was more of a premium option. They leaned hard into robotics and automation. Before it was a buzzword, little known fact, Quiet Logistics was actually the first user of Kiva robots. Even before Amazon bought them, they wanted to give brands high-end reliability over bottom line price. You went to Quiet.
Yeah, that's right. And when you think about like Amazon then bought Kiva, they basically told everybody else to pack their bags, right? They kicked them off the platform. And the eviction story is essentially where it gets interesting because that forced Bruce Welty, Quiet's founder, to really pivot hard. He didn't just find a new vendor. He went out and then founded Locus Robotics.
That's right. I mean, it's a bold move to okay, my robotics vendor was just shuttered. I'm not going to find another one. To be honest, he went and looked around the market and didn't see an option. I mean, that's frankly why Amazon bought Kiva at the time. There was really
Right.
no one else like it. And
Yeah.
so Bruce, being the entrepreneur's entrepreneur, he started his own robotics company. I feel like that's something I need to do in my spare time.
Totally. It's just a little side hustle. Doesn't take a lot of time or manpower or fortitude. But what's interesting is Bruce kept the locus part of that separate, which is
Right.
pretty savvy move. Hats off to him. And so when American Eagle buys this business, they don't get that crown jewel, right? And they
That's
don't really
right.
own the piece of what could make that pretty, I think, material in terms of having some interesting IP.
Yeah, and just this month, Locus announced that they surpassed 25 million picks at a single site with their partner Radio, who coincidentally was the sponsor of our NRF Live event. Globally, they've cleaned billions of picks, and the little robots, they move around. They're so cute and adorable, aren't they?
Oh, they are. I like naming them. They seem really nice. So you met Bruce, right?
Yeah, back in 2015, I was the CEO of Merchantry. He was a friend of one of the investors in the company. He actually came by, super impressive entrepreneur, like just really saw the intersection of logistics, automation, software, and retail in a way that very few people did. Quiet was on a tear at the time. And he was mentioning with the Kiva acquisition, which was around the time that I'm thinking about doing something else. So it's just crazy to see all this play out years later.
Yeah, it's why we love e-commerce and retail and all the ancillary businesses around it, because it always comes back full circle and it is such a small world. But getting back to this story, the takeaway really is owning your own supply chain can sound great on an earnings call, can sound great in terms of a strategic initiative. But if it's not your core, it's a really heavy burden to carry. And Rick, kind of throwing back to something you said, at NRF and this year, the theme being bold.
Right.
Was this just the wrong bold move? Do you commend American Eagle for being bold, or where do you sit on this?
Yeah, look, I think it's a big challenge to do this if you are a clothing retailer for a couple of reasons. Number one, are other clothing retailers really going to trust you with their logistics? Because ultimately you're in competition. So I just think ultimately it's the wrong bold move. You're going to trust FedEx and UPS. You're not necessarily going to trust your competition. They might drop a few parcels that you didn't know about.
That's right. It's why, a lot of bigger brands aren't necessarily utilizing Prime as their main, or Amazon as their main logistics partner, right? So
that's right.
Yes, this is a quiet end to a very loud chapter, and we'll take the lessons learned and file them in the e-com and retail playbook.
We will. What's the next story that we have up for us, Jess?
Oh, the next story is the resale rumble. And this is Vinted's second shot, really clamoring, like you said, for that American dream. And, Rick, this is really near and dear to my heart because as I look through my closet, there are a lot of old trends. There are some things that I'm like, ooh, what were you thinking, girl, when I bought that? And, you start to think about where can I resell this stuff? And there's so many options. There's Poshmark, RealReal, Depop, Mercari, Vestiaire, StockX, Rent the Runway, Rebag, ThreadUp. The list goes on and on. And really the antithesis of it all, and I guess the mothership of eBay, which fumbled so badly on resale, like it opened up the door because none of these companies in theory should really exist.
No.
There's the places go on. And then my also favorite one is the Facebook Marketplace, because I love the memes that go around with like the husbands and they're like, here I am sitting in this parking lot waiting to get murdered to exchange hands for like this, get $5 for my toaster.
Correct.
Yeah. So it is a crowded space.
Yeah, it's definitely a crowded room, and you pointed out. But there's a new and technically returning guest, especially to the North American market, not necessarily the US, Vinted. They're a European powerhouse. They're actually quite successful there. They're currently pouring tens of millions of dollars into a massive North American relaunch. And is this a second bite at the apple for them? Like, what do they have that other people don't have?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I'm not really sure I have the answer. Like, they tried years ago, it didn't stick. What they're doing this this year is they're essentially kind of flipping the script in terms of the way that they're bringing the business to market, right? So instead of saying, "Hey, we're going to charge the seller," they're actually charging the buyer. So it's a really interesting dynamic that I don't know is necessarily going to play out as well for them.
Right. Yeah, because buyer, I mean, if you have looking at a price on a site, you want to know what you're going to pay, and you're not paying a buyer fee on eBay, although you potentially pay an eBay risk fee. That's
Yeah.
hidden below the line there.
It's in the mini. It's in the mini set and fees. Yeah. So it's like, I think it is different in the sense of most of these marketplaces are making their money off of the seller to bring the buyers, right? And they want to make the hurdle to bring buyers, as you know, in like a two-sided marketplace. It's like you got to have the inventory, but then you also have to have the buyers come. And so their thought process is, listen, if we can take out all the work from the sellers and like remove fees, maybe we'll have lower prices, maybe we'll get more inventory. So we're going to play that selection game. And I just think that's an interesting gamble in the sense of, a lot of those seller fees actually end up funding advertising. And that's to me the miss here is I don't know Vinted. I don't understand like if how am I going to essentially learn about this like new marketplace or the reentry of this marketplace? The flywheel feels like it might kind of be missing a spoke.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. So it seems like it's kind of a race to get enough supply with this sort of no fee situation to create enough gravity to pull in the buyers.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll actually see, I think, what happens here. Maybe if they solve like logistics, if they can handle, things a little bit differently than Poshmark. The issue overall, Rick, though, is that, look, we do have an inventory problem. We have so much excess in the world as it relates to apparel in particular. So much of that ends up in landfills. I commend these sites because they really are trying to help mitigate that. But like the $5 tee that I bought at Old Navy, like, I don't know that belongs anywhere else.
No, it does not need to be resold. And so maybe that's the problem that none of these sites have solved yet, which is why there seems to be one launching every 6 months.
Hundo P.
Awesome. Our next story is Apple's defensive sprint to enter the AI wearable space. Did you see the latest leak, Jess? I mean, Apple is reportedly panicking over the fact that OpenAI is developing AI hardware. Obviously, this is something they knew was coming with Johnny Ive. They're potentially launching a product this year. Apple's thinking about launching a product next year. What do you think is happening here, and how about the timing?
Yeah, I mean, the timing is interesting. We're not talking about pennies here. $6.5 billion is what was paid for Johnny Ive's startup. That's, and if you don't know him, it's Apple's former design god building a rival device, essentially. So he has been critical in the Apple ecosystem. And we know Apple cares so much about the customer experience, the interface. So to have him on the other side, really kind of clamoring at potential market share, especially in a space that we know is so hot as AI, I think is what's pretty interesting. OpenAI is aiming for this launch in 2026, and Apple's maybe gonna do something in 27. I don't know. So it's, I think that there's a lot of pressure felt in these AI wars.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed is that Apple is actually paying to get the AI chops, which Apple has not really developed. They're paying $1 billion to Google for their Gemini model to put into the product because Siri is not serious.
No, she's not serious as it relates to AI. She can barely get me directions or translate my Southern voice into text that makes sense. So, when we talk about wearables and devices, Rick, is this glasses? What are we talking about here?
Oh my gosh, we don't need another pair of glasses. I think Apple has glasses, PTSD from the last Vision Pro launch, which I think they sold about 5 of them, and now they're on the Facebook marketplaces where your friend's getting murdered as we speak. Think of it more like an AirTag on steroids. So you have this thing, it's pinned to your lapel or your shirt. It's a circular pin. It has no screen. It has a few things. It has cameras that can actually see the world in front of you. It can monitor all the audio that you're producing, as well as in your environment. And it has a button to manage those recording things, so you could charge it as well as tell it to stop eavesdropping on me.
Cool. This sounds great. I can't wait to walk up to someone and see one of these devices and then immediately shut down. But essentially, so it sounds so much like that Humane AI pin. And that was a big flame out, similar to the Amazon Fire phone. It overheated, like a literal flame out, bad battery. Honestly, no point to it. I remember the hype on CNBC.
Yeah.
There was so much around this. Why do we think like this is going to work?
Yeah, I mean, look, Apple has a reputation for doing things, even if they're not necessarily the first to a market. People who are first to the market make a lot of mistakes. And so when Apple comes to a market, they come and they are able to learn from people who make mistakes, take all the arrows in front of them, and actually really obsess about the customer experience. Imagine what it used to take you to load an MP3 player before the AirPod, the iPod came out.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I'm expecting here. The pin acts as an iPhone accessory. You already have an iPhone. You have your AirPods. I really think all these devices are going to work together.
If you think about it, like maybe Apple watching and learning here and seeing how it plays out could really work to their advantage in bringing something to market that's actually useful than having another situation like an AI pin or, the Zune. If I'm doing my throwback to my
Zune.
3 days. Zune.
That's a good pull.
Yeah, thank you. I really dug deep for that. Kind of proud of myself. But yeah, so I think it's going to be one of those wait and see, and maybe they win out. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a defensive play. Amazon acquired an AI wearable startup called Bee for the same reason. And everyone is kind of terrified of this post-smartphone era that we've seen. Like, smartphone sales have slowed down for the past several years. And so Apple is not trying to kill the iPhone. It's not trying to kill the Mac. Really, they're trying to move the interface off glass and sort of into the air between you and whoever you're talking to and yourself with voice. And so now it's on your lapel and off your glass.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say it's a little tough pull, because throwing it back to some other news happening that we are yet to talk about, but we will, like the social media wars, that's all designed to keep you on the glass, on your device. And so it'll be interesting to see if some of those dynamics shift. But hey, look, if you can solve the creepy factor of a camera being pinned to your shirt and recording everything going on around you like the NSA, maybe you'll pull it off. But 2027 is a long way to go in AI years.
Exactly. And I think we are waiting to see what Apple comes up with, but we're excited about it too.
Yeah.
Today's episode of the Watson Weekend is sponsored by Miracle. You don't need another tool. You need a growth partner. The Miracle platform is powering the next era of retail for brands and retailers who are ready to move. Powered by AI and built for what's next. Our main story this week is the Wednesday morning massacre at Shopify. If you didn't hear, on January 21st, 2026, Shopify took a huge axe to a massive part of its partner organizations, hitting partner managers, marketing people, and the teams that hold the hands of the world's biggest agencies and what's called GSIs, or Global System Integrators. These are big development organizations, many with massive workforces all around the world, but India is obviously a big source of them. The internet is on fire about hot takes on this. Is Shopify abandoning the enterprise because enterprises need these integrators to build out their platforms? Jess, you've been scrolling all the LinkedIn manifestos about this. What have you seen?
Whew, it is spicy, Rick. If you believe the comment section, Shopify has just set the bridge to the Fortune 500 on fire, huge flames everywhere. But if you look at this fitness function, yeah, exactly. And that's Toby and Jeff's favorite internal metric. It's almost inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, basically when Toby, he speaks in code a lot of times in his own sort of developer technical speak. For him, a fitness function means that the company needs to be a fit company, like a person needs to be a fit person. And by that, it means essentially no fat, very minimal
Fergie,
support
I'm in the
team.
gym working on my fitness.
Exactly. And if you can do the job with AI. He's going to have the company do the job with AI. And so all these partner people that is pushing all these sort of steak dinners for people, you can't prove the ROI of an expensive human. It's productivity over people.
Yeah, and that's really their mantra, right? Because they have been so entrepreneur, and as they kind of move into this massive company, which they've been a massive company for a while, but they're still kind of holding on to that entrepreneurial spirit and trying to be different. They don't want to be another bloated tech company, and so it wasn't like we don't like our partners. It's just like you said, we can't prove out the ROI, and so let's look at the math here and figure out ultimately like what makes the most sense for us. So break out like the two buckets of the partners. Like you said, there's these GSIs, but then what's the other group?
Yeah, I think, look, Shopify is a juggernaut now, but they weren't always this way. Shopify was dependent on a lot of these partners to convince brands to bring it business. And that's how they built a lot of these business. Well, now you don't necessarily need a lot of agency time to build out a storefront. So the two buckets are really partners that need Shopify more than Shopify needs them. They're kind of like they need us, kind of the small to mid-tier agencies. Shopify's theories is kind of simple. If our partner is the best, we don't really need a lot of people to manage these relationships. Sure. That's sort of bucket one. Bucket two is the global system integrators. So like Accenture, Deloitte, IBM, Cognizant, EPAM, TCS. These guys, it's hard to imagine. They make a lot more money selling products from like SAP, Oracle, AWS, Microsoft, Google Cloud than they do on like a simple Shopify store, which frankly you can now get AI to build on your behalf.
Right. Yeah. Because like those are more complex integrations. They take lots of people. They take like technical fortitude. They take project managers. And so you got to have a whole team, which is like these organizations kind of thrive off of, swarming in to kind of build this out. And they're very complex, faceted initiatives. And that's not really Shopify's game. They don't like to live in the world of complexity.
No, this 18-month deal cycle, it's like, hello, is it done yet? I mean, Kaz Najatian, the former COO of Shopify, says like, why is enterprise software so expensive? He basically thought it's like there's so many steak dinners that get into closing that deal. And so I think basically steak dinners canceled.
Canceled. Yes. We don't like steak. We're going vegan, or just not eating at all. Yeah. So like you said, to answer this question, it's been posed around. It's like enterprise dead at Shopify. People are really up in arms that this enterprise is being abandoned. Harley is still personally in the room for those biggest deals, but they're really embracing this product-led growth mantra. Like they want the platform to speak for itself. And they don't necessarily need to be doing a lot of convincing all these leaders. And like you said, taking these long sales cycles. It's kind of like, we're here, you use us. You don't, you can keep, blowing your billions or your millions on these like complex technical projects that ultimately fail and you tire out.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think Shopify is, if you believe them, they say they're on this 100-year journey. And I think they believe that anyone who's in between Shopify and its merchants is essentially a middleman.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard anyone say your margin is my opportunity, but that's kind of what Shopify is telling these agencies here.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Toby, though, does like kind of hate the sales part of it, right?
Yeah,
he is that
totally.
Truly tech entrepreneur. He's a builder. He'd rather be refactoring code than like talking to some change resistant VP or C-suite at a legacy retailer. And so that's kind of like this ultimate expression of their heritage and DNA and what he stands for.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're an agency owner listening to this, I mean, Shopify hasn't left the building like Elvis, but they've definitely stopped picking up the tab for your advertisers. Maybe your steak dinner, you're on your own. You're going to have to pick up the tab. There's going to be this awkward pause at the end of the date. Like, is he going to pick up the bill? Am I?
No Del Frisco's for you guys. Sorry.
Negative. So
Shake
Shopify,
Shack.
This is where they want you, where you need them. They don't need you. So that's our Shopify story for this week.
Yes, very good. And appreciate you unpacking that and setting the record straight, really. The good news is Mr. Beast, as their marquee enterprise client, continues to live on.
Oh, I love it. And That joke will never get old.
It will. It's just like a gift that keeps on giving. I love it so much.
Shout out to Tucker. Well, that's another week of retail reality in the books. We've survived the returnuary tsunami, seen eBay play Let's Block Bots with agentic AI, and watched Shopify try to turn every merchant into a tech mogul. Jess, any words of wisdom before we go dance into the weekend?
Oh, I just got one for you. If your AI agent spent more on your credit card this week than you did, it might be time for a gut check and a performance review.
Ouch.
Remember, if your checkout experience is also a leaky funnel, don't blame the algorithm, blame the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Stop chasing the toolification of what's going on. Build what you actually need to exist. We're going to be back Monday to Meta and UPS earnings and more.
That's right. The notebook guy will be here with all of your latest updates on what's going on in the earnings showdown. Until then, stay bold, stay contrarian, and for the love of logistics, check your tracking numbers. We're Rick and Jess. This has been Watson Weekend Friday episode.
Thanks so much.